we're going to go with Paul Preston, our Agenda 21 hero.
Our resident wacko.
That's fine. I wear that title. How come the crazy guy's always right?
That's what John McCain said.
I don't think so. Okay, well, somebody had a question about the situation with guns in banks. You want to ask it again so we can get it in context, and I'll answer it for you.
The Justice Department and a lot of the banking regulators and institutions, in the past, they've tried to restrict the financing for gun dealers and for precious metal dealers. And I just wonder if they're still doing that.
Not only are they doing it, they're expanding it. Isn't that nice enough? Okay. This started out with the, back in 2008, with the TARP program, the relief program. And when Obama became president, he had inherited a guy who was running the TARP program and had been employed by the Bush administration for about a month. And he started up a program through Treasury, a series of conferences called Islamic Finance 101. That man's name was Neil Kashkari. And this is Sharia finance compliance. And not only is it alive and well now, because you see, if you're going to be one of those TARP banks, a bailout bank, and even if you weren't, you were forced to go this direction. So anything that's not Sharia compliant with the Quran and Sharia law, they shut down. Now it's growing. And a good example, news came out today about Seattle. The city of Seattle is offering Sharia finance for mortgage hold lenders. Right. Right. So I thought I'd answer that for you. And that just cheer you up a little bit, break out your Quran and start studying. Because this is the direction that they're going to go. Unless we stop it. Now I've told you that. But this is the first step they always do, is bring in the finance people to control the population. This is creeping Sharia, and it's crept in pretty good. Okay? So they don't. Okay, I'll take a couple questions and I'll get into some meaty issues. So, actually, Karen, come up here, please. Here's, I'm very proud of Karen, and you should be too, a resident lobbyist. I say on the show all the time, stopping totalitarianism one community at a time. And 3 years ago when I started saying that, I used to get ripped all the time. I had a radio network that wanted to syndicate me and said, we really want to pay you this money and syndicate you, but you can't say that terminology. I said, see ya. I said, you guys are stupid. Because what's happening right now? The totalitarians are here. However, we have Karen with us. And Karen is the one person who's out there trying to stop it. And I'm really proud of you, Karen. Everybody else. Okay, but she's going to give us a report. She doesn't know it yet, but she's going to give us a report on something that just happened in the California state capitol with her good effort. So go ahead.
Last week they finished up their session until August 17th with all the bills, and last week I got 2 bills passed through the committees, and the pot people got so mad they ran out threatening to sue again. But I got 2 more I've got to work with when I go back on the 17th that they're going to be finishing up hopefully, and all of them will go to the governor. I've even been giving articles to the governor's office regularly. Last time I gave 25 articles. But the last committee meeting, it happened to be in the paper about the AK-47 and another assault rifle and money and in a kid's room. It was in the Bill Democrat. I took that article with me, and I told the committee, both committees, about that, and they all televised all of it in all the rooms. And so thanks to me, I got 11-2 vote on one of the bills. On one of the bills. And the party was so mad, they was furious. And then I got in the other committee and I said the same thing. And they were overwhelmingly, and in the Senate, they did one bill, it was unanimous with no votes on that bill. Thanks to me going the last 4 months, they have changed their mind totally about the pod people. They've seen the dangers, and I told them again repeatedly about the threat that was given to me from one of the pod people at our last meeting last month at the courthouse. I keep telling them they're dangerous. And when I was in Oroville the day, a guy told me he didn't know they were dangerous. He thought they were laid-back people. I go, you don't know the difference. That's why I was asking about the cartel taking over, because I go after the pod people regularly. And on that, I have been threatened by one of the pod groups. They had the Mexicans, they had a radio station in Marysville right next to the pod shop. I was threatened to back off a few years ago, but I got that pod shop closed down. I actually staked them out and found out they had kids going in there getting pot. And I told the Marysville PD, and they did shut them down. But they are trying to get another dispensary going in Marysville. But we're working on ordinances for that. But thanks to my efforts, I got a lot done. And Roger Morgan did show up at the Capitol, him and his helper. But I'm still working on Roger to let these bills pass, because if we don't, we're not going to have any regulations for another year, they told me. If we don't get something in place now, the pod people are going to win again. And they're going to be able to get all these free taxes and destroy our neighborhood. And I'm not going to let that happen.
One person at a time. That's the power of one, and that's why I say if we're going to stop the totalitarians, it's going to take these kind of efforts. And she's been doing this now for 4 or 5 months, and the effects of one Tea Party person going down there is enormous. This is $1 trillion business in the western United States that's being stopped by one little person. They're stifling it. I can tell you, because, my contacts in the Capitol, which are very intimate, I can tell you that the force of one person and what's going on with Karen is enormous in the state Capitol. If you've ever been down there and walked the Capitol and you go to all the different rooms and so on and meet with all these people, they're very cloistered. They really don't know what's going on in the outside world. They hear things on radio, they hear crazy things from me, and they think, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, because I had these cartel people telling me what's really going on. So it's the power of one. And Karen, thank you very much for all your effort. Keep it up. Keep it up. Good. It's actually, there's a term for this called love bombing. Tom?
Yeah, apparently there's a new attack on Social Security and the Second Amendment, 4 million.
Right.
Apparently they feel that if you cannot handle your own Social Security, forget to pay your bills, or you can't balance your checkbook, you can't handle your money, you're not capable. Pull the trigger when some SOB comes bringing you the door at you.
Right. How many have heard about this? That, man, thank you very much. This is awesome, because this just came out in the last couple of days, the attack on Social Security and your Second Amendment.
And it will spread.
Well, it'll spread, but I have a feeling a lot of people are going to ignore it. But they're following the template laid down by Kamala Harris here and Jerry Brown through the Department of Justice. I don't know if you kind of think back on the conversations that we've had about that. If you've been taking psychotropic medications, boom, you can't have a gun. We even had a family come here at the Tea Party to talk about that when all these 12 guys all showed up with machine guns at their house. You're just in Wheatland. So it's real. It's that model that they're using for Social Security now. So if you have some sort of problem, you can't own a gun, and they're going to deem it that way. A lot of it's arbitrary and capricious, of course. And, you know, we have some places where laws have been passed, as we talked about last week, in New York. And in New York, they have this silly law about you have to go out and register your AR-15. Well, there's like almost 3 million semi-automatic weapons in New York. And they estimate that only 4% have complied. That's lawlessness. You know, if they're going to be lawless with us, what's going to happen is going to have lawless on their side. Yes, ma'am.
Isn't it then just trying to get Social Security to work with the federal government just to get into the Social Security database?
Shut it down.
Well, you know, we mentioned data earlier today. Did you mention data? The data thing? The president has decided that he's going to suck all data and use it now. And this just came out over Saturday. And tonight at 9 o'clock on Agenda 21 radio, you're going to hear that story because I asked Patrick Wood. We actually had interviewed him yesterday. I said, Patrick, this is right down your alley. Because what they're going to do is use tons of data pieces, and they're going to determine how racism is affecting our culture. And they're going to use racism as the key data point to determine how our society is going to be managed and distributed. Now, for those of you that might remember, this is critical race theory on steroids with data. Critical race theory is this: the founding fathers were white, and as a result, they created a constitution and institutions, and guess what? They're all racist because they were created by white people. Critical race theory. Derek Bell, professor from Harvard, and a very good friend of President Barack Hussein Obama. And it was also the discovery of critical race theory and how Obama was going to apply critical race theory in his second term. Now let's think about that. What just recently happened with a rebel flag? Critical race theory. Right. All this so-called riots, which, by the way, the American people haven't really participated in, have they? I love it. They're trying to do all these things to create riots, and we people are just not participating. But that's critical race theory. It was Andrew Breitbart who discovered in January that was the plan for the president. March 1st, he was going to have, this is 2012, he was going to have a press conference. Now, I know I've told you this story before, but now I can see you're kind of like going, maybe this makes a little bit more sense this go-around. But on March 1st, 2012, at 12:18 p.m., he suddenly died. So-called of a heart attack. He was murdered. Because he was going to divulge at that press conference the president's plan for critical race theory to destroy the nation using racism. And now we have white privilege, all this other stuff, right? It's all a spin-off of critical race theory. And the president is now going to use, he wants to put it in place by the end of his term. I don't think it's going to happen. All the data pieces that he's been collecting. You know, CUME folders from students. How many of your teachers in here? Oz, what's a CUME folder?
Well, it's an accumulation of the student's history.
It's a physical folder, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in that folder is very sensitive data. But with race at the top, we have to turn that information over to the feds. All of it. Yeah. Any piece of data on a student has to be turned over. So, the state, or you can thank Mr. Schwarzenegger and everybody else who wanted to get a race at the top funds, or at least apply for the grant, for giving away our 10th Amendment right, and also our privacy laws. That's where that came from. See how well thought out this is? Also, suspension and expulsion records for students. Suspension and expulsion records, which are totally falsified, going in as a database, they're going to be used. Because there's way more expulsions and suspensions for blacks as in disproportionate to whites. And they're using that, and of course the data is all falsified. I know. I know how to do that research and information. They're going to use all that to determine, listen to this, they're going to start using this data pre-K. So by the second or third grade with predictive data, you guys know what that means? They're going to get a pattern on a child, pre-K, kindergarten, first or second grade, and they're going to say, you know, you guys, you over here, you're the green crowd. You guys are going to go to college. You guys in the blue crowd, trade school. And you guys over here in the red crowd, we might do away with you altogether.
They'll go to Congress.
It's worse than that. When you throw in the eugenics factor, that's what they're doing. Now, we explain all that on the radio show, so we'll get out here at 9 o'clock, so you can listen to it 14:10 a.m. tonight. You can hear what he has to say. Okay. Big story for us. Today we finally put out the videotape of Scott Bennett at the Liberty Tour. Who was there? Okay. Thank you very much for being there. And how many thought it was pretty cool? All hands go up. It was a big news-breaking day with Scott Bennett. And, you know, for those of you that don't know, Scott Bennett is truly a whistleblower. If you want to know how Snowden decided he was going to get out of the country, listen to the tape that we have. If you want to know about WikiLeaks, all this stuff, it was Scott Bennett. And his presentation, how many liked his presentation? Yeah, it was like, whoa. So we have it on tape now. And it's on the website. We broke the story. It's kind of gone ballistic. But the thing that he does is he spells it out very clearly that the President of the United States, Hillary Rodham Clinton, helped to form ISIS, which is exactly what we've been talking about on my radio show since Benghazi. Months and months and years, and I'm so sick and tired of saying Benghazi, Benghazi, Benghazi. But I'm more than happy to say it until there's justice.
Did I hear you say what I thought I heard you say?
Yes.
The President of the United States, Hillary Clinton?
Correct, no. The President of the United States, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton work together. They have all the documents, all the records, all the financials. They got the United Bank of Switzerland, Booz Allen Hamilton, all the details. And all those details that spell out how the President of the United States formed ISIS. That's a good question.
Formed them and armed them.
No, he said it over here. Sorry. Go.
What's actually, what just staggered, 22,000 accounts that were brought over from the Swiss banks.
Correct.
Financing terrorism. And
Correct.
Pardon me, we dicked around with it until we had a chance to shuffle them all around the river. It's 22,000 accounts.
Well, they're still active. No, they're still, no, these guys are, they just found other places to put it, Tom.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they're still active. In fact, there's still active shipments of arms going into Syria, into ISIS now.
22,000.
So this is going to all come to a screeching halt. Now, if you read the story, we're coming out with a two-part series story, and it's really pretty amazing what's going on. I don't know if I told you this, but well, I'll talk about that in a second. It's pretty amazing how this operation has unfurled. And of course, how we found out about stuff like this. Because, you know, Scott, I was just so gleeful on Saturday. And I've interviewed Scott, and we talked a long time. But to hear him say that what we were saying on Agenda 21, 18 hours after Benghazi was the truth, was pretty exciting stuff. Pretty exciting stuff. So, you need to see it. It's just absolutely amazing. Again, if you haven't seen it. Yes, sir?
I just saw an article that said this big container ship broke in half and sank.
That was a big sea container ship? Yeah. They're still shipping them. They haven't been shut down entirely. Their arrogance is getting the better of them. They think that we don't know about this. I mean, really, see, we're the mainstream media. Are you hearing this in the mainstream media? The only place you're hearing it, and we documented this, on July 6th, Judge Andrew Napolitano came out and he said, and we've got the video clip, he came out and said that Hillary Clinton and the president and other senators, including John McCain, he didn't say that, but John McCain is a big player in this, was helping to arm ISIS, helping to promote ISIS, get their training, get their funding. They're culpable of treason. And this is what Napolitano said. Multiple felonies have been committed by these people. And he was using Scott Bennett's database, his information that Scott Bennett gave him. 2 days later, Rand Paul comes out. Says, oh yeah, by the way, we know about ISIS. And you know, Hillary Clinton has all these emails that are supposed to have come off her server. And a guy by the name of Guccifer actually hacked in and got the real emails. And they have those. And they corroborate the statements of Bennett.
He needs to take up the Trey Gowdy.
Trey Gowdy has it. Bennett has gone to almost every single senator and representative and badgered them. Tonight he's probably badgering them. If you saw him at the thing, he's a bulldog. He absolutely is a bulldog. Yeah.
Two bits of information. One is, you probably read on the Drake report, IDF and Saudi Arabia are going to go after Iran with a vengeance. And the other one was, this is kind of a question that I would ask you. Everything you've been talking about and all the time that you've been conversing with the different events that are going on, would you not say that in a nutshell, to the heart of the beat, that this is all being done by a one world government?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. This whole thing with the Iranian deal and what they're doing with our sovereignty as of what happened today, I spoke about it on the radio pretty good today, and I knew it was going to happen. This is stuff that they've been trying to do this all along. They actually tried to turn the Benghazi videotape into a sovereignty issue about trying to stop our First Amendment and freedom of speech. You may remember that during the Benghazi charade, Obama actually went and spoke about this. This is the statement where he made, you can't insult Allah or something like that, the Prophet Muhammad. And that's what that statement was referring to. They were actually trying to use the United Nations to curtail our First Amendment rights, which is still a big issue, still going on. That's where Scott Coughlin, or Stephen Coughlin comes in. We interviewed him about that a couple weeks ago. So they're still trying to do that. But our sovereignty is at risk based upon this behavior that you saw today. And of course you have all these Republicans running around, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen. They're in on it too. One world order, yes. Okay. Shooting. We lost 5 brave Americans. 4 Marines and a sailor last Thursday. Was it Wednesday or Thursday? Thursday. And being the son of a Marine, which often get called something else. And my father-in-law, a decorated Marine Corps officer. It strikes at home when someone in the Corps is killed, and certainly the Navy. And this was an attack on the United States of America by ISIS. Let's not be fooled. I'll lay some things out for you. This is so simple. What'd the parents say?
They said he was just depressed. He was depressed.
Oh yeah, of course he was.
He thought ISIS was
Terrorist.
Sure, that's why he went and spent 7 months in Jordan and 2 months in Yemen.
That's not true. They sent him to his grandma.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Get away from drugs.
Oh, get away from drugs. Get away from the bad influences of America. That's right. Yeah. Let's get this. I'll correct you on the quote. And it is such a terrible tragedy, but this was an attack on the United States of America. Now here's the problem. It was an attack by ISIS, which was formed by our president.
That's why he doesn't want to fly the flag.
That's exactly right. But other things too that go along with that. I said it on the radio today, I'll say it again. That's murder. And I want to get that message out as far and wide as I possibly can. He murdered those five. The evidence will be conclusive and overwhelming, and they are running from this evidence. They don't know what to do with Scott Bennett at this time. And that is a fact. I have been told that by people up in Washington. They don't know what to do with this hot potato.
You're going to try to kill him, probably.
So he's going to push as far and wide as he can. You can just expect that. Pardon?
You need to be careful. You see what the Texas governor did today? He signed that bill for Marines and bases to have weapons.
Right, right. And of course the president doesn't react that way, does he?
No.
He wants a soft target. And of course the soft target law, by the way, there's a little bit of political confusion going on because I have been for years talking about soft targets because of my public education background and taking all the signs off the school buildings saying gun-free zone. So this whole gun-free zone business has come home to roost, hasn't it? You would think the president would order the arming of our officers and recruiters immediately, and military bases. Now, there's some confusion going on, I think promulgated by Fox News. I've been reporting the soft law thing about the bases since the late 1990s. Because I used to give these safety workshops and stuff. And used to talk about, if you have a sign that says gun-free zone, guess who's going to enter there? The guys with the guns. It's called a soft target. Classic terrorism thing. Okay, so I was always reporting that it was Bill Clinton that signed that law into effect. 1993, right. Well, Fox News the other day is saying it wasn't Bill Clinton. It was actually George Bush Sr.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I heard that.
I said to myself, here we go, playing another Bush. Why? Because Hillary's running, and we can't have that cloud over Hillary. So we're doing some document checking right now to find out where all that came from. But I've been reporting and talking about this since the 90s. But to disarm officers or disarm people on their own base is only asking for trouble. And look at all the trouble that we've had. Look at how many soldiers have died.
Friday Martin had an article on that today.
About which one it was?
About it being Bill Clinton.
Oh, I'm sorry. I love citizen journalism. Okay, before I get to the next one now, because this is about immigration. Let's see. We are going to have Ted Hayes on the show. Actually, he was supposed to be on the show on Friday, but he was sick and he couldn't be on the show. Ted Hayes is a black activist from Los Angeles, and he's really quite gregarious. He's a radical. He's an absolute radical. And you guys would love him because he's conservative. And all the radicals on the left know him as a loon. He loves it. But, anyway, so he's the one who's been outing the president on his whole immigration program. He and Susan Payne. Susan Payne, of course, is the aide that gets on the radio. I think McDonough is his last name, out of Baltimore. And they were the ones that were privy to the conversations from the White House, from the New Americans program, and the Receiving Communities program. And he's the one who started outing the Obama administration on all this information, which led to Judge Annan's decision. We heard about that tonight. All that information got in his hands, which was this. We're going to flood your borders with millions of refugees or illegal immigrants, and they're going to become known as the New Americans. And then they're going to be spread out in various communities, and these communities are going to be known as the receiving communities. This community is one of them. Have you noticed a shift in population trends here, or demographics in this community? All you need to do is go to some of the discount food grocers around, and you can see it. It's happening so quickly, and that's part of the plan. So unlike last year, which we saw, I don't know how many millions that came across the border, you're going to see about 3 times that this summer, which is already going on. And what their whole notion is to come into some of these smaller communities and basically overwhelm the community with these new immigrants and push out the native people. And they'll become known as what's called shadow people. That's their plan. Now, let's fast forward to Operation Jade Helm. Because this is the plan, this is going on right now, right? We can all agree, Operation Jade Helm is here. What is Operation Jade? Have you heard much about it? Heard anything? Citizens, anybody? Nobody? Yeah, go on the internet. By the way, it's really a little side story. We got the video all produced and everything, and this is like 1 o'clock in the morning, and Bob sends over the video, and the video doesn't come over to me. And so we get the video finally, about after half an hour, to my computer, and it comes up on the computer, just the link, and my computer crashes. So I tried another computer. It crashed. So I tried it on 3 platforms, and they all 3 crashed. And so we had some problems this morning again trying to get it out, and also just getting the article out, which was that, in fact, I had to call GoDaddy and find out what was going on. I said, well, you're being hacked. Didn't want us to put the article out, but we got it out anyway. Anyway, what was I saying before that? Little side. The immigration thing. They're going to flood the borders as they are right now. And this is all about money, plain and simple. You've heard me say this, trafficking in human flesh and slavery. Millions of people, this is the largest human migration, probably in human history, that's happening right now, all destined to come into the southwest United States. Now, the giveaway, you see, we here in California kind of get this. And I really had a great conversation with somebody back in New York yesterday about the immigration issue, because they don't get it. And they don't get the notion of Aslan. How many have heard that before? Aslan. Aslan is the retaking back of the Southwest, which was once North Mexico. And we got that land through the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo after the Mexican-American War. And we paid money and so on. And that's been ours ever since. Operation Jade Helm is in the exact same states as that landmass. Texas, of course, you know about Texas Civil War. New Mexico, Arizona, California, Nevada, Utah, and Colorado. Now, see, I've worked with kids, Hispanic kids, Mecha La Raza for years, and that's all they talk about, some of the reactionary ones, is the return of Aslan, and how we're going to kick the gringos out. This has been widely, how many have heard this before? Live here in California, you hear about it. This person in New York was like, you gotta be kidding me. I said, no. So I said, okay, go to my website and look at the map they put up in the schools in Mexico about Aslan. And they show these nice green and yellow maps, you know how those maps are against the wall. Aslan on those maps. I got a copy, it's on the website. So the comprehension, and I've had this so many times, especially working with gangs and stuff, people on the East Coast have no concept of what's going on in California or the Western states, because they don't live here. They don't deal with it all the time. They've never dealt with the gangs, and of course now they've got gangs, which brought me to the conversation I had on Saturday in Chattanooga, because they got gang problems there. And I happened to talk to a couple of police officers, and they don't know what they're doing with the gangs. That's my opinion. So I said, you guys need some help on what, especially the drugs. Because the cartels, because they're so naive and stupid, they run the town. They run the whole area. And guess who was caught up in the cartels? Now, I can't say for 110%. Guess who was caught up? The shooter. Now, The first clue for me was looking at the picture of the shooter. Because, you know, I'm a trained expert in drug alcohol recognition, right? The guy, he got picked up on a DUI, driving while under the influence. Okay. Well, what was he under the influence of? And when I looked at him, I could see clearly it was not alcohol. So I called, and it was a housing authority that actually arrested him. It was a police force, Hamilton Housing Authority. And they arrested him, and finally, I got in touch with a friend who lives in Cleveland, Tennessee, not far from there, right next door. And I say, can you put me in touch with somebody? The person I got in touch with confirmed it was marijuana he was under the influence of. And you can tell by his eyes. Somebody has grayish blue eyes and the patina on his skin, flat patina. He's under the influence of marijuana. To get the blue eyes, you have to be a serious daily smoker of marijuana. So obviously he has issues. And the issues was drugs. But you know, it's kind of interesting. All the things that are just obvious about the shooter. This goes to the mainstream media. Because you're hearing this song and dance now on everywhere. He was a good boy. He was a good Muslim boy. He wanted to get into cage fighting, MMAs, all this stuff. He was a good boy. Now, I'm not being sarcastic about the Muslim faith here. I'm being sarcastic about the reports that I'm hearing because, you know, I used to hear this all the time with the gang kids. He was a good boy. Oh, is that why you just blew the kid's face off? Yeah, but he was a good boy. It's okay. He was a good, he's going to jail for life. You know, that sort of attitude. Always the same with the gangster families in denial. My point is this, is that we have a situation where the media is actively, you can see this, covering for this kid. And the facts are the facts. You can't get away from it. He had multiple guns. He was dealing with a lot of drug situations. He was also doing psychotropic medications, which they're blaming. Isn't that funny? All these shooters have had psychotropic and marijuana problems, and nobody's ever before blamed the psychotropic medications. But you see, in this guy's case, you got to get over a couple of humps. And this is where they're protecting the president. And it's all hands on deck. You see, we pointed out on Agenda 21 radio the training centers for ISIS starting in November 2012 was northern Jordan. Then they go on to further training in Yemen. This guy went and spent 7 months in Jordan and over a month in Yemen. Now, I don't know about you. That's called training. And by the way, those of you, how many have fired an M16 or an AR before? What happens when you shoot multiple rounds at one time? What happens? Right. Check the windows. He was trained. He was trained. Plus, it was a diversion. The recruitment center was 7 miles away from the target. And just like Columbine, there were explosions. And where did all the assets go? Away from the school, away from the recruitment center, and the target was hit. The soft targets were hit. They're trying to protect Obama because Obama created ISIS. That's why these people are going to go, wait a minute, if we can pin Obama with this, or if he gets pinned with this, that's called murder. That's the big story, one of them.
Happy hour.
Oh, listen, Larry. I can see the clock up here. I know when my show's going to start in 7 or 8 minutes, so I want everybody to go out and listen to this.
It's happy hour.
Yeah.
What's Hillary and Bill's kill number up to now?
Oh, I don't know, but I can tell you that Obama, with this latest shooting, he has, for mass murders under his administration, which means 4 or more people being killed, he's up to 23 in 6.5 years. Bill Clinton, in 8 years, had 23. Ronald Reagan, in 8 years, had 7. Just thought I'd throw that one in. These are missions, ladies and gentlemen. These are mission-specific. There's no question about it. Yeah. We're going to take one more question after Tom.
I had, just got a photograph, I ain't gonna say where I got it. But anyway, I had pictures of high dignitaries, and Bush was one of them, and he is a 33rd degree Mason. And I sent those pictures somewhere, so they know that I took those pictures, but they can't come after me, because if they do, those pictures will be made known, and there's a list of people like you would not believe.
You're doing a Scott Bennett on us. Tom? That's what he's doing. Tom?
It's sad you were talking about all the gun caches in the United States. How far back does that go that you know of?
I know it goes back.
Coming out of the plane.
Right, I know it goes back as far as the early or the mid 80s. 80s. And that's still good. I did have a conversation with a person this weekend who could.
And that was multinational arms.
Correct. Chinese Russian arms. That's correct. Okay, anyway, I'm going to quit because my radio show is coming on for the 3rd hour. And I want you to go out and listen to it 14:10 a.m. And you can hear what we're talking about with the data pieces. It's a 30-minute interview that I have with Patrick Wood, who, by the way, is going to be here sometime in August. We're going to try and work out the details. So, any other questions, anything like that quickly?
Is Bo Bergdahl in jail yet for treason?
No, not yet, but by the way, one of the things, I will drop this on you, one of the things in the Michael Hastings killing, the Rolling Stone guy, it was, and you guys heard this that were there, it was Scott Bennett's information that he sent along with, what's his name, Bradley, the other guy, Fairkin or whatever his name is, he sent them the information, all the information he has now out in the book, to Michael Hastings, and 2 months later he was assassinated. That was Michael Hastings, the Rolling Stone guy. So, anyway, with that happy note, I did get accused yesterday in an interview, very jokingly, Paul, we listen to your show all the time. My husband listens to your show and the 6 a.m. show on the way to work in the car radio, which is kind of interesting because he has one of those little apps. Because this is in Georgia that they're doing this. And I listen to you later on in the evening because of the Pacific Coast time. I can hear you from KMYC because they have streaming. He says, after I listen to your show, I cannot sleep. That's your problem. And then I hear the husband in the background. He says, yeah, after I listen to your show, I'm so angry all day, I don't know what to do. So anyway, thank you very much. And the Liberty Tour number 4 is happening. It's going to be here November 14th. More information can come on that. Thank you very much.